Obviously, rulers obtain their authority and attain power in a number of ways. First is despotism. It is a form of government completes power and uses it in an illegal, violent, cruel, and unfair way in which a single entity rules with absolute power. That entity may be an individual, as in an autocracy, or it may be a group, as in an oligarchy. The word despotism means to rule in the fashion of a despot and does not necessarily require a singular despot, an individual. Colloquially, despot has been applied pejoratively to a person, particularly a head of state or government, who abuses their power and authority to oppress their people, subjects, or subordinates. In this sense, it is similar to the pejorative connotations that have likewise arisen with the term tyrant who illegally seized and controlled a governmental power in a country. Dictator has also developed nearly similar pejorative connotations, though despot and tyrant tend to stress cruelty and even enjoyment therefrom, while dictator tends to imply more harshness or unfair implementation of law. In its classical form, despotism is a state where a single individual, the despot, wields all the power and authority embodying the state, and everyone else is a subsidiary person. This form of despotism was common in the first forms of statehood and civilization. The Pharaoh of Egypt is exemplary of the classical despot. The term now implies the tyrannical rule who dominates through threat of punishment and violence, or absolutism, or dictatorship, a form of government in which the ruler is an absolute dictator, not restricted by a constitution, laws, or opposition, etc. Despotism, dictatorship, monarchy, especially absolute monarchy, sometimes is linked to religious aspects. Many tyrant systems once claimed the right to rule by the will of a deity, divine right of kings, mandate of heaven, a special connection to a deity, sacred king, or even purported to be divine kings, or incarnations of deities themselves, imperial cult. Many European monarchs have been styled defender of the faith. Some hold official positions relating to the state religion or established church. The history of the human race has beheld that despotism as a form of government results in a huge number of moral and social catastrophic deviations and crises. For example, the policies of Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini and their orders resulted in the death of over 60 million people. The command to obey in the verse is infinite total obedience in all material, religious and spiritual matters. Therefore, as this verse clearly signifies, the UlilAmr must also be as just, wise and merciful as the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, was, and he who administers the affairs of mankind should be the Khalifatullah, vicegerent of Allah, and the Wali Allah, representative of Allah whom he chooses after equipping him with his wisdom. It is irrational and senseless to accept any other ruler as UlilAmr, otherwise men like Yazid bin Muawiyah will have to be included in the category of UlilAmr, and no sane person would say that Allah has enjoined to obey men like Yazid, prototypes of whom were and are many and in abundance since the departure of the Holy Prophet till today, just as one obeys Allah and the Holy Prophet. Today the Muslim ummah, from Indonesia to Morocco, is in a quandary, because the theorists who directly or indirectly served the interests of the despotic rulers, have presented the obedience to ruler even if he is an usurper, a rogue or a ruffian as a fundamental of religion known as the theory of violence and conquest by misinterpreting this verse. Such theorists are their false imams, curse be upon them. There is no way leading to emancipation from terror and exploitation if this theory is not rightly rejected once and for all. How can we believe, as Muslims, that the just, wise and almighty Allah has enjoined us to obey unjust, insane, and tyrant despot, dictator or monarch. It is absurd to suggest that obedience to a tyrant is compulsory. If it were, why do the Bakri ulama condemn the oppressive rulers and caliphs, like Muawiyah, Yazid, the wicked Ziyad ibn Abiv, Ubaydullah, Hajjaj, Abu Salma, and Muslim? If anyone claims that obedience to wicked rulers is compulsory, and some Bakri ulama have really said that, it would be quite contrary to the Quranic injunctions. Allah has frequently cursed sinners in the Holy Quran and has forbidden Muslims to obey them. So how is it possible that in this verse he would order us to obey sinners? Obviously, we cannot attribute two divergent orders to Allah Almighty. Hence, Imam Fakhruddin Raza clearly says regarding this holy verse that the UlilAmr must possess perfect integrity. Otherwise, Allah would not have linked our duty to obey them with our duty to obey Allah Himself and the Holy Prophet. Certainly Allah would not require His servants to obey a sinner as they would obey Him or His Prophet. Therefore despotism and its prototypes are illegal and forbidden. They must be rejected as a historical deviation considering their unreasonable origin, background, process, and effects.